Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is inaugurate. Let's take a look at some of the definitions or ways that you might hear this verb used. The first way you might hear this verb used is to mean to formally admit a person to public office. Now, I think this is the main usage or the definition that is going to be used a great deal if you are following U.S. news this week. So you're going to hear about a new president formally becoming the president. So formally being admitted to this particular role or public office. A second way you might hear the verb inaugurate used is to mean to begin or introduce a new system, policy, or period. Sometimes you might encounter this word in history books as they talk about, again, new systems, new policies that come into being. But that particular usage isn't maybe something you hear all the time. A third way you might hear this verb inaugurate used is to mean to mark the beginning or the first public use of some type of organization or project. You should know that inaugurate is a regular verb. To make the progressive tense, we're going to drop the E and then add ing to form inaugurating. The past tense and participle forms of this verb are made by just adding the letter D since this verb already ends with an E. The base verb, inaugurate, ends with a T sound, so our past tense ending is going to make an id sound. Inaugurated, inaugurated. You'll be happy to know there are no additional meanings that you need to learn in combination with phrasal verbs. So that's going to allow us to practice using this verb in a couple different tenses. You might notice from my notes on the screen here, today we're going to focus on the passive voice because I think this is more common for you to hear or to see in the news right now. So remember, with the passive voice, our sentence is starting with the person or the object, the thing that is receiving the action. So again, it's very common to see this verb used in the passive voice because many writers or speakers want us to focus on who is receiving this new beginning, this formal admission into a public office. So today we're going to look at the simple future. And to make simple future in the passive voice, all we're going to use is will, then be, and then the participle form of the verb. And this structure will work no matter what our subject is. So let's take a look at an affirmative example. Joe Biden will be inaugurated as the 46th president of the United States on January 20th. So I'm recording this video before this event or this action takes place. That's one reason I'm using the simple future. Now, if I want to make a negative passive voice sentence in the simple future, I'm going to use will not be and then the base verb. Sometimes you'll hear native speakers use the contraction form of will not. That's won't. Here's another sentence. The new mayor won't be inaugurated until April. Okay, so something nice and off in the future. Finally, if you want to make a yes or no question in the passive voice about a future event, start with will. Then you're going to have the object, the person, in this case, or thing, receiving the action. And again, you'll see be and then the participle form of the verb. Will the new governor be inaugurated later this month? Okay. For our second verb tense today, we're going to look at the present perfect. And again, in the passive voice. To make passive voice present perfect, we're going to use have or has, depending on our subject. Then we'll use been, B-E-E-N, and then the participle form of the verb. Let's take a look at an affirmative sentence. Since 1937, U.S. presidents have been inaugurated on January 20th following the November election. So we're using this verb tense to talk about an action that repeats and continues into our present day. And I'm using have there because presidents, that word is plural. If I had just spoken about a single president, I would use have. And you'll see that in our negative example. So if I want to do negative passive voice in the present perfect, I just need to insert not after have or has, and then follow that same structure, been, and the participle form of the verb. The new president hasn't been inaugurated yet. Finally, if I want to make a question, yes or no question, I'll start with have or has. Then I'm going to, again, have that object, the person or people receiving the action, then been, and the participle form of the verb. Have Biden and Harris been inaugurated yet? So this is another good thing to mention. We will inaugurate both the president and the vice president. So they formally become the president and vice president. Up until this point, we've been referring to them as the president-elect, the vice president-elect. And once this event takes place, they're officially it. Now, let's take a moment just to look at a couple words that are related to our verb. And the first word we're going to take a look at is the noun inauguration. Just like our verb, this noun can have a couple different meanings. So it could tie back to the first definition of the verb we looked at, the formal admission of someone to a public office. So an example of that usage would be, the inauguration program will begin at 11:15 a.m. And all of this is Eastern Standard Time here in the United States. A second meaning for the noun is a ceremony to mark the beginning of something. So again, generally something new. Here is an example of that usage. The inauguration of the new museum will occur in February. The last word we'll look at today is the adjective inaugural. It means marking the beginning of an institution, an activity, or a period of office, or a period of time in office. Here's an example of this adjective in a sentence. Will President Biden's inaugural address help unify the nation? So it's very common and part of our tradition for the new president, to make this formal speech. That's what's meant by the word address there. So here's a question. What will be said in this address that is marking the beginning of his time as the President of the United States? Thanks so much for watching today's video. I hope you have a great day.